Hi, welcome back to StoryHive On Location Kelowna. I'm Robb O'Day, and we are live in location in Kelowna with another episode brought to you with support from TELUS STORYHIVE. Today I'm speaking with Damon Gregory, the creating and brainchild of EMC Studios. And we're going to be learning all of the incredible things that he has created and started over in the Okanagan over the last few years at least. So
been here 5 years now.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it.
And giving me your time.
Yep.
Let's start off with who you are, where you're from.
Damon Gregory, originally from Tucson, Arizona. I've been in the Okanagan since the early 80s and a number of different industries. Worked in hospitality, Big White first few years here, bartending, serving, that kind of life. Graduated into construction. I worked by day and by night, continue the restaurant, back and forth to the States a bunch. Eventually getting in deeper into construction, built my own house here back in the 90s. And tired of that and the restaurant business and decided I'm going to do something I always wanted to do. I'm going to be an actor. I had looked at a collection of name tags from various restaurants and places I'd worked and realized, all I ever did was put on a name tag and a certain set of clothes and talk a certain way, and I was that thing. So I thought, what better way to take all of that and maybe make a living at it? So, no, honestly, I had always wanted to be an actor, just didn't have the courage to say so until later in life. And after the 20 plus years in the restaurant business, which I call the other theater, I decided this is it. I'm going to just drop it all. I went to Vancouver, got into a full-time acting program, and I was working within the first 6 months doing short films, got an agent, and was off to the races. Till, and this is a long answer to your simple question.
It's all good.
Until such time as I didn't know how to deal with the roller coaster. You know, the highs of getting the part and the lows of not. It was a very busy time. 1997 in Vancouver was the first year we'd hit $1 billion in production in the province, which was unbelievable. I was auditioning 3 or 4 times a day, running all over the Lower Mainland to various sites. And there was work, but I had kids that were getting a little taller and said, I'll put this down. So in 2003, after the big fire here, I just sort of packed it all in and went back to the States. And I've been building luxury houses up until the pandemic. That was my thing.
Is that when you started the studio here?
So yeah, a great part of the story I like to tell is I was in my door and window showroom in Ventura, California, beautiful little space down there. Seaside beach town, you know. Guy walks into the showroom and got his blueprints and introduces himself. His name was Seamus, and says, I got a project coming up. I heard you're the best in the biz. I want to talk details, but let's just get to know each other first. So we sat down at the conference table and he started asking some questions and then sort of just stopped and said, you know, you strike me as a bit more of a creative guy than this nuts and bolts thing. Let me ask you a question, he says. If you could get up tomorrow and do whatever you want to do, what would it be? And I said, go back to my acting career. And he said, so what are you doing here sitting talking to me? And I made the decision in that moment. That was 2018. It took some time. I was in the middle of a number of projects. Had made the decision in that moment. I'm going home to Canada and get back to my acting career. And then the pandemic hit, and it gave me even more time to sort everything out, make the huge shift. Got through that. I was stuck in a warehouse in Palm Springs, California for the summer of 2020. Not a great time or place to be, but made the best of it. Whittled everything down to just what I could throw in my trailer for tools, with the plan B that I will work as a handyman until my career gets back in place. Never had I felt so much space as when I got on the highway to come home to Canada. It just felt like Ah, man, no stress, you know, it was great. So came back to Kelowna. My mom is still here, and it was time to sort of take in a look on her as she's in her 90s now. And saw the industry back up and running right away, found an agent, and found a space, realizing that self-taping was the new norm. So I realized, okay, that and some basic teaching, which I had done, improv and audition skills, the things I focused on in acting school. Found the space, and funny how I even found the space to continue the doors opening of the universe in this way. I had looked in Castanet and all the places, made a list of things, was driving around looking at buildings, trying to find locations that I could afford, and it was raining, and I stopped out front here on Ellis Street, and I was like, this place doesn't exist. So sat there for a minute and just said, you know, just relax. The right thing will come up. And then I look out the window. The sign in the window says for lease. So I called the number and looked up the info, and it took me a little time to get with the landlord, but this is where I've been since May of 2021. So we are now coming up on 5 years.
What really drew you to the Okanagan versus being anywhere else? Is it because of the growing industry here?
Well, that's another interesting part of the story. I think all of this is, as somebody pointed out to me the other day, this is just what's calling you back. 2003, after the fire that we had here in Kelowna, and I had finished a renovation for my mom at a house in Peachland, and realizing, okay, I got to give up my career for a while. I'm just going to put it down. I'm going to get into something. I'll go deep into construction and do the right thing, so to speak. And but I had been here 2002. A friend and I saw an ad in the paper, did something, went around with a camera and started shooting location scouting for the newly formed film commission, thinking, oh, this is a whole new thing. Maybe this is where I'm meant to be. Did that for a little while. Nothing really came of it, but I could see that the industry was starting to grow in 2002, 2003. And literally, as I was crossing the border at Oroville, saying out loud, wouldn't it be great if when I get done what I'm doing in 15 or 20 years and I come back to Canada to resume my acting career, wouldn't it be great if there was enough to do in the Okanagan that I wouldn't have to go back to Vancouver? Not knowing that that would actually happen, and it has happened. We had a pretty vibrant scene here. I think Kelowna was actually the first market or production to get up and running during the pandemic. I think by June 20th there was cameras on the ground and people were doing their thing and helping the industry as I did with the taping, and I met a whole new community, and it was just the intent to dive back in fully and completely. And it's sort of catching up to me, if that's the right way to say it. I didn't find either, it didn't seem realistic I could go back to Vancouver with my mom aging in, still in place at her house, and realizing what's going to be needed. It wasn't really realistic, and I didn't wanna. It was my plan B to do the handyman thing and audition again, but I was happy here. I have a lot of friends here, and I'm well connected, and so I just put myself fully into the industry. And since then, I feel some of my community and the people that I've met here through the studio, we have actually turned our attention to helping to build the industry. So after a couple of years here, very busy years, even during the strike or leading up to it, 2022, a colleague and I decided to start the Okanagan TV and Film Industry Forum as a way to share with the community what the industry is, what its impact is to our economy and to the workforce in all things, both in front of the camera and behind. A very unique formula. We just thought, let's get industry leaders together to tell their career journey, much like what you're doing here. And we put together a panel of 8 people, and Dalias and I got the microphones on and treated it sort of like a Phil Donahue episode of sorts, walking through the crowd with Q&A, but everybody had 10 or 15 minutes to tell their career journey, which is fascinating because you hear somebody start over here and they end up over here because it called them in. And so that proved to be a good formula. We've had 4 forums since, our last one being last May of 2025. And at such time, the natural progression was where we are now, to announce the Okanagan International Film Festival, which has always been an idea of mine, and the time seems right. The best way we could market our industry to the world and bring more production is to show people what there is. But conversely, also to educate and show the community what cinema really is about, not what they see just on the movie screen or on their streaming channels. But what got me interested in film festival was when I was in Vancouver in '97. I volunteered for the Vancouver International Film Festival. And if you volunteered for 8 little 4-hour shifts at the table giving tickets, you could get a full festival pass. And I love movies. So I went to a lot of movies. And one of the first ones I saw was this incredible Japanese film called Hanabi, and I went, I never would have seen this if I wasn't at this festival. And it just blew me away, and thought, wouldn't it be great one day to have a film festival in Kelowna? So again, ideas that ruminate in my head somehow manifest, and I think that's the wonderful thing about life. And that's sort of a message I carry around. I think I live by the rule of, I don't want to say I coulda. I want to say I did. Because coulda really is a regret, would seem to me. So.
Yeah. In your time from acting, because you started acting, put it down for 10, 15 years, and then came back to it and decided this is what you want to do full time. Going from having to travel all over the Lower Mainland to do your auditions to self-taping, how beneficial has that been for you?
Yeah, it's been huge. It was a big change in the industry, obviously. At first, it was like, oh, good, I can do as many takes as I need. You get a chance to see yourself. You go, oh, I want to do that again. To helping others. You know, I'm sure in this room we have probably done thousands of auditions and tens of thousands of takes, if you will, between classes and the auditions. We had 2022 and 23 were just incredibly busy till the point we were actually adding a second room because there was so much traffic in here. It changed a lot of things. There's goods and bad. I miss being in the room and interacting with people and getting a vibe or giving them something different because they can ask for it. You would get notes and maybe a second opportunity. Can you try it a little more like this? But also there were times early in my career where the nerves were just over the top, and I didn't know how to. I blew so many auditions early in my career, like my agent calling me up, what was that? What did you do? You pissed her off. Yeah, because I'm human. I made mistakes. I got nervous. Learned to overcome that. But now with the self-tape, what's great, and having seen so many actors through the process, and just trusting gut and really being able to just throw it out there. And the great place to be that I feel right now for myself is, and I learned from others, I always say the Bryan Cranston rule of, once he, deep in his career, realized my job is to show them what I think the character is, not do what they want. That's a great way to approach it. Mm-hmm. So I love auditioning. I'm a professional auditioner. And there's times I go to work and do the same thing on set. It's just being in the zone, and it's allowed for that.
Do you think stepping out of your comfort zone as an actor, and not necessarily doing speech roles or film, but stepping into that Broadway or the theater aspect, kind of brings back to roots? if you were ever into drama as a child.
So I wasn't into drama as a child. I mean, drama was my life, maybe. I was a character kid. I bounced off the walls and did my comedy routine, and I could do accents and imitate, and that was my shtick as a kid. And you grow into class clown. I changed schools a lot, so humor was the safety zone. I've since learned that through years of counseling, that's a part. The comedy is, I always felt in our home, whatever wasn't stable, if everybody was laughing, I was safe.
Fair enough.
And that was important. So I would play these things, but that's the thing. I would never, if somebody said, well, come and do this play, I wouldn't know how to do that. That would be, and so I never, but ever since I was 3 or 4, we had a unique setup in Tucson. There was a film set outside of town called Old Tucson, and it was a Western film set, tons of movies done there. And it was also a theme park, so you could go on the weekends, and we'd bring visitors who came out from the east, and you'd go over there because it was also adjacent to the Desert Museum, which was world-renowned, as it still is. And so you'd go to this little western town, and they had the little putt-putt cars that went around this thing. They were old-fashioned, like Model Ts, and then there was a train that went around, and every hour on the hour in the main street, they would reenact a bank robbery with the stunt actors. And you'd hear this, and they'd shoot each other and roll off the roof and all this stuff. And I was just thinking, this is what I want to do. And so it was in there, but I could never really, I just, for whatever reasons, my insecurity, I suppose, didn't allow me to say it out loud. I thought it, I wanted it. After high school, I moved to California, and it was even near Hollywood, and I was thinking, is this the time? And didn't have the courage. And ultimately, when I went to it later in life, what I found was me. The self-exploration and the understanding and the tearing down of all of the stuff, I figured out who I was. I wouldn't have been ready any sooner in life. I'm on the right timeline. That's about all I can say.
When you're taking on a role and you're diving into the character, has there ever been a point where the character that you're creating you feel is not right but is ideal for the film? So the way you're portraying the character, because each actor they're given basic details, and then they have to go off of that, of what they're going to sound like, how they speak, how they look at somebody on camera. And over the years of progression through acting, you can see 70s acting compared to now is a lot less believable. Films nowadays are very believable, and having to create that character and be able to do somebody else, is that difficult to try and separate from yourself sometimes?
Well, that's a really good question, and I was talking about this in a sense recently. I read for a part of in an audition that was a really foul person, and it felt like to me, this is something I want to go for, because at the level where I'm at, and grateful for all of it, but in the realm of this large principal actor, it's expository material. You're saying, as I always say, well, he went that away role, right? You're not really given a chance to dive in very deep, but on stage, I've done some great projects in the last few years where you get time with that character. And I don't know myself, it's a really good question, because it's complicated and it's different for every actor, is what I'll say. I often joke, but the truth is I like what William Shatner has to say about acting, where in interviews he says, there's no real thing, there's no method, there's no character, just say the words. That's about as hard as it is. I love that, because if you ask me what my process is, I have no idea. I really don't. I just trust the text. if I can just say those words with conviction, vulnerability, sensitivity, anger, whatever if I can just get from that writing what it is and just regurgitate that, that's the truth that I'm after. And when you ask if I'm involved with that, yeah, it's all me, because I've felt all those things. And I think bringing yourself and using what many have as the toolbox of emotional trauma or joy or whatever you've got in your toolbox that's all sitting right in here, that's all it is. Just apply that to the text. Be who I am. I haven't had many chances in film or TV yet to go deeper than that. But I don't know that I'll approach it any differently. I think I'm just going to read the text and go, oh, I know how that feels. and give that to the other actor and connect in that moment. I think that's probably the hardest part for a lot of actors, is that having that trust, but that's where it's at.
Have you ever worked with Indigenous actors, or have you had any come through here?
No, and we have tried very hard to encourage the participation. We do have someone on the board of our nonprofit, the TV and Film Industry Society, who is West Bank First Nation, and we're trying to. Let's talk truth. There's a lot of. It's hard to what do I say? To repair the damage to the trust of generations.
It is.
And to say the door is open, I'll take it back though. One of my dearest, longest friends is Dene, lives on the west side. And when I got back and got started into my career again, I said, hey, Judy, why don't you come over and get involved? And she hadn't done it since high school. She'd done some drama, but she popped right back into it and landed some roles and some stuff. But her frustration was that she's reading for things that aren't truly her culture. And she wasn't getting the opportunities, and still isn't. And it frustrates her, but she's just as happy to do her Indigenous craft work than it is to go and do an audition to be some white person.
And that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I totally get it, and I
think it would be cool to see a push for Indigenous filmmakers, and that's why I love StoryHive, is they have a lot of opportunities for that, and some of the films that have come out are mind-blowingly good. And there's so many like little points and things that I'd love to do, like aside from the programs themselves, but to really dive into the social aspect of the cultural aspects and the arts of our local Indigenous, because it's mind-blowing how beautiful it is, and the talent that comes out of here is
it's for sure.
It's crazy.
And we're hoping with the festival that we can bridge some of these divides. And our Okanagan International Film Festival, for good reason, we chose the name, because it is the entire region. And also, in looking it up, Okanagan loosely translates to gathering. So our festival is a gathering of cinema, culture, and creativity. And we want to focus on things, over time as this grows, but mixing the cultures, especially in food and celebration, art. We have had an offer from Noel's estate. I've asked that we will use one of his pieces of art as our first-year poster, which I still need to get a look at that. But I want to honor where I am. This I'm grateful to be here and very fortunate, but I recognize much more than just an acknowledgement, which is a spoken honoring. I'm truly grateful and feel strongly about who was here before and respect that. I'm just grateful that I get to be here, but I know I wasn't here first, and it's not really mine. So I want to share that. I really think I want to I want to expose it for what it is. And our feeling and hope is over time that this Kelowna International Film Festival, or Okanagan International Film Festival here in Kelowna, will expand to music and art and be a fall festival of all things.
I love that.
Yeah, but I'm just going to focus on the film part.
Yes, no, I totally understand.
And hopefully the music will come and the art will come, and we can all celebrate and again expose our community to what there is. It's a lot of people are here. They're transplants. One of the things I didn't like about California, I tried living there 3 times in my life, and it made it work. Aside from the small town where I felt really at home, California is just a bunch of transients. Nobody's really from there. And that's sort of unfortunate how Kelowna has become. You rarely find anybody born or raised here. Yourself, I think.
I'm actually from Penticton.
Yeah,
Yeah.
From the valley.
Yeah, I'm from the valley, but
that's got its downsides. But it always, I think Kelowna's, the people that are coming here are finding that, this is something we could stay with for a while.
And I think that you doing the film festival and creating that, and among all the other things that you do locally, is you giving back. And your ability to give back to the region, not just the industry.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes for who you are as your character.
Thanks. I also, we do want to have a focus on the next generation. This isn't, and this is the purpose of what I do here, is to open people's eyes to what exists in the industry, to themselves as who they are, and find that and become a better person for the sake of humanity. But our next generation needs this understanding of what this industry is, what cinema truly is. And I think with the change in distribution that this platform is, and we want to show those kids. So one day is all dedicated just to high school students for the festival. Screenings, conversation, speakers, little workshops, things that they can really go, all right, this is a viable career option. We don't want it to be looked at as something that's not attainable. We want to show that this is accessible. And the festival is legacy. It's just, I love film. And when you see festival film, you'll realize, wow, I never would have seen that if I hadn't gone to the festival. And that's the joy of it. And also seeing the similarities of other cultures, and that we can find as humankind, we're more alike than not. Interesting story. This is so far off, but it was funny for me. That's what really opened my mind to the power of film. Was at Vancouver International Film Festival, I think it was 1999, I was managing the Vancouver Centre, 2 theaters there, number 1 and number 2. And we had a problem that year. Every single film that I was showing over those 2.5 weeks had a problem. Somebody didn't show up, the film didn't show, the director didn't show, the camera caught fire, the projector burned through one. So there's an Icelandic film that comes, it's in theater number 2. I go in there to make my announcement, and the announcement is, we so apologize. The film that you're about to see is from Iceland, and we got the Icelandic version. There are no subtitles. Expecting 450 people to walk out. Nobody left. They watched the movie, and they understood it for what it was, because it's storytelling. And if it's visual and it's a good film, you get what they're saying. And that was just fascinating to see. Nobody walked out. They all learned a little Icelandic, I think.
So I got 2 final questions for you, and they both you've already touched base on them, but I want to extend a little bit. If there was one thing that you could change in our local film industry, what would it be?
I'd say we need more venues, I think. If that's it, it's a part of it. As we're developing the festival, where are we going to screen? I got to go to the big people, the landmarks and the Cineplex, and get something. Why don't we have a dedicated art? Well, yeah, you know what I would change? I'll get right to it. I wouldn't let the city do what they did to the Paramount.
Mm-hmm.
We lost a great venue. We need more theaters. That's one thing.
And I think that that's the drawing away from a younger crowd and inspiring the underground to get into theater is that the lack of people going to theaters and the money coming in is what's difficult. And that's the same thing with music industry. We have two venues here, and the amount of bands that are coming out of the Okanagan that are signing to record labels and now touring worldwide, and no one even knows they're from Kelowna, is extremely sad. Like the three biggest DJs of the dubstep era are from Kelowna. That's like Excision and Downlink, all from Kelowna, and nobody notices that because they never perform at home.
We made a trailer for the last forum, 15 minutes long, of 50 movies that were filmed here in the Okanagan that you would never have an idea that were filmed here. It was, people are like, what? That was made here? Yeah. And so there's that. So yes, bring back the Paramount. We don't need another Tim Hortons. Thank you very much.
Yeah, especially one that no one goes to. That's the saddest part about it.
Yeah.
Is it's ideal spot and no one goes into there.
I love that theater. It was so classic.
And the other question is, you've already touched base on about getting into background acting and learning the industry from that perspective, but if someone would wanted to become an actor, what is their first initial steps? Because that is always the most intimidating thing, is how do I start this career without any influence?
Well, that's what I try to address. Just sharing with people the 30 years I've been in this industry, how to make those first steps. The first thing is say it out loud that you want to do it. Come to an intro session. I do them once or twice a month on a Saturday. It's an hour. I'll paint the picture of what it is, and I'll give you a checklist of things to do to get yourself going. But I'd say before that, when you say I want to be an actor, make sure you understand why. Because you gotta it's got to be, I feel, for the right reasons. You're not stepping into this for fame or fortune. You're doing it because it's a calling. It's a need, as Barbara Streisand said, in her career at one point. She says, I don't have to sing, I need to sing. And I know that feeling as a performer. I just got to be doing something. And if I'm not auditioning, I got to have something else, So understand why. And then just take that first step. I'll tell you, the hardest one is the first, and that's cliche. And I'm not here to, somebody way smarter than I said that it begins every journey with just that single step. And if you do that, you will find your way. And that's just that lesson we've been talking about. Don't sit around and say, well, I coulda, because you will regret. Just try it. If you fall down, great. Failure is a wonderful teacher. And it's not even failure. It's just, how did we all learn to walk, for God's sake? I don't remember all those falls. That was a long time ago.
It's true.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to thank you for your time. This has been an incredibly inspiring conversation. And
thank you.
Your story and what you do for the community we need more people like you that see the problem and are willing to fix it without worrying about having somebody help them. It just needs to be done. Let's do it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. And if you'd like to be a guest on the show, there will be a QR code at the bottom of the screen that you can scan, and it'll take you to a film or a form to fill out, and we will be in contact with you. Once again, I'm Robb O'Day, and this has been StoryHive On Location Kelowna. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks.